So it's time now to cross over to our TNA, and it's happening in four ways this morning. The guests that are going to be there is the Minister Jeff Radebe. He, of course, is the Minister in the Presidency. We've got Ms. Amina Mohammed, Assistant Secretary General, Professor Enrico Giovanni, the co-chair of the Independent Expert Advisory Group, and, of course, Paddy Lehohla, who is our Statistician General. He's also a member of the UN Data Revolution Group. So Peter is there, he's ready, and he's going to be talking to us about the theme, the world that counts, data revolution for the post-2015 Sustainable Development Goals agenda. Peter and your guests, a very, very good morning to you from us all.
And learn from the lessons of the Millennium Development Goals that they have offered us. So I ask you to please join and enjoy this morning.
All right, okay, and unfortunately we have run out of time, but we'll give you an opportunity. Ladies and gentlemen, a big hand for the HR Director at JRC Mining, Mr. Andre Oldmer. Thank you so much indeed for sharing your thoughts with us this morning. All right, okay, now just before we started, as a precursor to this conversation that we're going to be having, and I guess a big theme here, the world that counts, data revolution for the post-2015 Sustainable Development Agenda. That's going to be kind of the thrust of what this conversation is about. And I'm going to introduce my panel, and they're all part of this expert advisory group. And they're going to be telling us what they wrote in that report, what their recommendations are, and also what difference it's going to make in your life. Now, one man that we were hoping that was going to be able to sit with us in this conversation had to go. But before he did, he shared this message with us. Let's hear from him now, and we'll start the conversation straight after. The Minister in the Presidency, Minister Jeff Radebe.
Mr. Peter, the editor of the New Age, Mr. Williams, the United Nations Secretary General Special Advisor on the post-2015 Development Agenda, Ms. Amina Mohammed, whom I had the pleasure of meeting in Davos about 2 weeks ago, the co-chair of the UN Secretary General's Independent Expert Group on Data Revolution for Sustainable Development, Professor Enrico Giovanni, the chairperson of Stats SA Mpahlele, Stats SA CEO Paddy, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Let me start by apologizing that I have to leave. The special business in Pretoria is the Cabinet Lihutla, which starts at 8 o'clock this morning. That's why, unfortunately, I have to leave. But let me give some brief remarks. The quest for leaving no one behind has triggered very important lever of change, namely data revolution. This call implores governments to address the human condition through use of evidence under the call for sustainable development. We should therefore systematically identify, organize, and apply evidence and planning, implementation, and monitoring of change in the material and social well-being of all the world's people. The report to the United Nations Secretary General on the world that counts makes this point very important. This call creates prospect as well as challenges to the sources and use of evidence in decision-making by all stakeholders. Today, we know that personalized, high-speed, variable data abounds. This is largely due to the advent of mobile devices that record all our movements. The ability to manage the Ebola pandemic in the West Africa was dependent on these mobile devices, demonstrating that technology holds greater promise for the post-2015 agenda on sustainable development goals. Technology assists us in moving information from source. This it does at high speed, and information can be aggregated and patterns can be known. Through technology, the Department of Education, for an example, and teachers can monitor school attendance on a daily basis, and principals and teachers can attend to anomalies as they want to. Through technology, births and deaths can be registered upon occurrence at once, and once registration is done, it can no longer be difficult 6 years down the line to ensure that we know how many school children will be on our schools. So the number of books, for an example, can be distributed knowing precisely what the information is. Whilst I'm not a student of statistics, but I know that my role as a representative and minister is to pursue and deliver on the quest for peace, fairness, justice, and through this data revolution, we can be able to perceive a world that is enabled to deliver better and faster results for all our people. In South Africa, for an example, we have adopted a laboratory approach for faster and better results under the name of Operation Phakisa, which means do it faster. We are charged with the responsibility in the presidency of planning, monitoring, and evaluation, and also for both short-term and long-term planning. In this regard, this instrument opens a space and sheds light on the interrelationships, causations, and consequences of interactions amongst people and places this in order to deliver better results to South African society. In statistics and data rests a decision to support instrument for maximizes all possibilities in our society. President Jacob Zuma, on the occasion of the launch of the operations of Census 2011, made this observation: the importance of conducting a population and housing census cannot be overemphasized. South Africa cannot fulfill its developmental agenda unless we know who we are, where we live, work and play, and what we need to better our living conditions in this country. Now we know. This, for an instance, when one swipes a plastic card at a till in a shop, when you access Facebook, you Google things on the web, and you send tweets, are these data that we generate daily secure and subject to privacy protocols? These are some of the issues that we need to indicate. The deluge of data information requires that there are legislative regimes that enable all our societies to benefit from the promise of this data revolution. To mitigate the prospect of widening inequality, governments around the world and the United Nations have to create standards of practice as a matter of agency, and this is why the World That Counts report of the Independent Export Advisory Group to the United Nations Secretary General is very much welcome. I therefore implore centers of learning from primary schools to universities to encourage students to identify new careers such as data science as a worthy of following to address the new and emergent challenges of any society. On this note, let us recognize the sterling work that has been achieved by the African continent in being open and receptive to the advent of data revolution. This is demonstrated in the exemplary participation in the 2010 round of population and housing census. Furthermore, Africa commits to civil registration and vital statistics in order to leave no one behind. Africa will even do even better in the 2020 round of housing and population census, which starts this year in 2015 and will conclude in 2024. Here is our message to the United Nations Secretary General, through you, Ms. Amina Mohammed. We request him to personally close the 2010 round of census and open the 2020 round at the next United Nations Statistics Commission in March of this year. This will give the armory that the data activists require to mount this major data revolution. Our government has approved States SA to embark on a consultative process that will culminate in all legislative amendments to improve our statistics system. As I conclude, let me take also this opportunity to recognize the book that was written by our eminent African scholar, Professor Ben Kiriegera, under the title, The Emerging Data Revolution in Africa. It is a singular honor for me to officially launch this book here on our soil in South Africa. I encourage further intellectual and policy relevant engagement with this book, which inspires the African Union Agenda 2063. State SA is privileged to have worked and to continue to work with distinguished scholars as the eminent professor. With those few remarks, I would like to thank you for your attention.
Right, that was the Minister in the Presidency, Jeff Radebe, speaking to us a short while ago, and he's not going to be on our panel, but he just wanted to share his thoughts with us before he had to urgently go away. So we're going to be having this conversation, and it's been themed, The World That Counts, a Data Revolution for the Post-2015 Sustainable Development Agenda. And that's actually the name of a report that's been written, and we're going to be chatting to the people that contributed and wrote that report, and why is it important, and what difference is it going to make in your life? All of that coming up in this, the latest in the series of New Age business briefings brought to you by the SABC and today sponsored by the JIC Mining. All of that after the break. Stay with us.